if we're all ready, we can get started with the first one, which is about the Dalgona coffee craze, as you will have seen on the spreadsheet. So the speech will begin in just a few seconds. Dear colleagues, if you, like me, follow a plethora of chefs, food bloggers, and cooks on various social media, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, or whatever, you will have, of course, noticed the latest craze that's sweeping the internet. It's frothy, it's jiggly, it's unctuous, and although beauty is in the eye of the beholder, it's also fairly aesthetically pleasing. I am, of course, talking about Dalgona coffee. And please allow me to elaborate in case you have lived under a rock for the last few weeks and you have no idea what I'm talking about. Dalgona coffee is a true internet sensation that revolves around coffee, as the name suggests. It's pretty much everywhere. I have seen different versions and everyone seems to be making it right now. In its essence, it's a milk drink that's topped with a thick, glistening, glorious, creamy, rich, and beautiful foam that gets heaped on top of the milk. The name may be a bit confusing, especially at first. You may wonder what this Dalgona is all about, for instance. Before the craze came to the West, it was quite big in South Korea, where allegedly it was invented. You will probably be familiar with honeycomb, also called hokey pokey in specific parts of the world. For instance, I know it's called hokey pokey in New Zealand and in Cornwall in the UK. Basically, this is a sugary toffee with a rigid but sponge-like texture, which means that you can definitely see the bubbles, but unlike Aero chocolate that you can buy in supermarkets, it's quite crumbly and hard, and it's also golden yellow. In South Korea, they have their own version of honeycomb, which they called popoggi, I apologize for the pronunciation there, or Dalgona. To make it, it's quite easy. You just need to combine normally water, sugar, and then add bicarbonate of soda. When you add bicarbonate of soda to a very hot mixture, it makes it froth up, it makes it foam up, and that's what lends, obviously, the very foamy and airy consistency. In South Korea, they normally heat sugar and oil, and then they add bicarbonate of soda. They mix it until it's light and fluffy, and then they pour the mixture onto a surface and let it harden. The craze started, apparently, on February the 22nd, when a Korean YouTuber posted a 3.5-minute clip where he makes this Dalgona-like coffee. I say Dalgona-like because he makes a coffee-based drink, and he said that it reminded him of the texture and the flavor and the color of Dalgona, so the honeycomb I was referring to earlier. This was a viral video which totaled over 4.2 million views, and the name stuck. So much so that, according to Google Trends, the phrase Dalgona coffee was pretty much non-existent until January the 26th. However, searches have spiked since the 1st of March, clearly aided by a series of videos which went absolutely viral. Just to give you an example, there are currently 113.6 million views for hashtag Dalgona coffee on TikTok. In its essence, Dalgona coffee comprises 3 main ingredients: instant coffee, sugar, and water. All of these ingredients need to be whisked for a painfully long time, sometimes even 6 or 8 minutes, until you reach a foamy consistency. You can do this by using a handheld balloon whisk. You can use electrical whisks, or you can also use a freestanding mixer like a KitchenAid, for instance. As you can work out, therefore, it's pretty simple. It's definitely not rocket science. I've also come across a fairly interesting video called Dalgona Coffee Explained, where a YouTuber, James Hoffman, decided to give a scientific explanation behind why Dalgona coffee froths up so much. According to James Hoffman, the whole thing is done volumetrically. This means that you don't weigh out the ingredients as if you were making a cake, but you use 2 to 3 tablespoons of each of the ingredients that I've listed earlier. So instant coffee, sugar, and water. He also went as far as to measure exactly how many grams or milliliters you have when you, say, take 3 tablespoons of each of these ingredients. For instance, he worked it out as being approximately 6 grams of coffee and about 20 grams of both water and sugar. You can definitely work out that we have a 1:3 ratio of instant coffee to water and sugar. And from a scientific perspective, this makes perfect sense. Dalgona coffee is very similar to a meringue. Now, I don't know whether you're baking aficionados like myself, but I can tell you that in a meringue, there are 2 main components. Egg whites, they are the protein, and they're also what lends its structure to the meringue itself, and sugar, which is whisked together with the egg whites to stabilize the foam. In Dalgona coffee, it's the coffee itself that provides the foaming agents. This is because when you roast coffee, you create compounds that or that make it possible for foam to create. And this is also what creates the so-called crema, so the creamy, foamy layer on your espresso when you order it from a barista machine. These compounds are typically called surfactants, which is, by the way, a shortening for surfacing active agents. They basically wrap themselves around the bubbles, so the air, and make them stronger. That said, just having surfactants doesn't make your foam stable enough. We've all witnessed it. We've all witnessed this when you go to a coffee place and order an espresso and you get that crema that I was referring to earlier. It disappears after a minute or 2. It doesn't last long. Here, on the other hand, with Dalgona coffee, we're making a foam out of a liquid which is extremely viscous. The liquid is a 1-to-1 solution, or rather a syrup, that's made with sugar and water. And on top of that, we add extra soluble material, the instant coffee. As a result, drainage is very slow, which means that the bubbles will last longer, and the bubbles themselves are much smaller, which provides a thicker foam because smaller bubbles are inherently stronger than much larger bubbles. Now, all of this is nice and dandy and very interesting at that, or at least I find it interesting, but you may be wondering, well, how did Dalgona coffee go viral? At first sight, it's basically just a novelty act, except a few factors actually contributed to its success. First and foremost, the fun and interest sparked by food that wiggles and jiggles a little bit. And I wonder whether to a certain extent the same could be said about twerking. However, I won't go into that. We are probably all familiar with the Japanese cheesecakes and pancakes that seem to be everywhere on the internet. They are fluffier and lighter than their Western counterparts. And apparently watching someone spoon and smooth a pillowy cloud of Dalgona coffee has a fairly strong pleasurable appeal. Secondly, Dalgona coffee fed directly into the popularity of ASMR videos. I won't tell you what they are because I'm sure you've heard it multiple times. ASMR videos focus on a range of pleasing sounds. Sounds are paramount and very important, so much so that there's very little music, sometimes no music at all, sorry, and there is no narration either. You can see that Dalgona coffee, or making Dalgona coffee, lends itself perfectly to ASMR videos because you can almost hear the light crunch of coffee grounds as the spoon dips into the jar, or the soft plop that the mixture makes when dropped into a glass. In any case, making Dalgona coffee is soothing and relaxing to watch, even if you don't get the tingles that you normally get with ASMR videos. Thirdly, making Dalgona coffee is extremely easy. There are just 3 ingredients, as I was saying earlier. However, if you can use any type of sugar and water, obviously, whatever, you should stick to instant coffee powder. This is because you can't really use espresso, as Nigella, you probably obtain the same reaction that Nigella Lawson that is, has whenever somebody suggests that you could be using low-fat versions of any dairy ingredients that she's using. That is pure horror. Don't even dream of using espresso. Stick to instant coffee granules. As we're all stuck at home, also making more and more coffee to go through the day, this making Dalgona coffee has turned into a pleasant distraction that keeps us busy for a little time. While I was looking at the reasons behind why Dalgona coffee went viral, I also decided to look into how, more generally and broadly, things go viral. And I found a very insightful article on Business Insider that details what goes behind a successful marketing campaign. I won't give you a comprehensive list for pure lack of time. However, I hope that the tips I'm going to give you will be helpful if you decide to create content that you want to become viral. First of all, format counts. Videos are way more likely to be shared than articles, written articles. Many, if not all of us, prefer to share visual content, and you just need to look at one of the many WhatsApp groups that you're in to realize that that is absolutely the case. According to forecasts, in 2021, consumers will spend 100 minutes a day just watching videos. And this is the reason why now 92% of marketers already prioritize videos in their strategy. We're all visual beings, we find videos attractive, and now that we always have a device with us at all times, you can understand that videos have become portable. We can watch them everywhere. The type of content is also fairly important. We tend to share content that triggers positive emotions, such as amusement, joy, happiness, but even pleasure, why not? And then we share it with our friends in order to show them that we can find interesting and insightful content, but also because we want to connect using perhaps a shared interest. To conclude, Dalgona coffee ticks all of these boxes. I also like to think that I've given you food for thought in case you want to create the next viral craze. However, word of caution, remember that if you decide to create a new viral food trend, it needs to taste good as well. From what I hear, Dalgona coffee is extremely sweet and very cloying. Thank you.